Hello and welcome to Grouchy Geeks episode 63. My name's Scott and joining me as always is Steve. How's it going?
I was born ready. I'm always ready. I'm well, thank you. Yes, here we are. November already, getting towards the end of 2021.
Yeah.
That's slightly terrifying, but
well, the most terrifying thing is normally in the December episode we do like a summary of the year, unless we decide to talk about June for the whole episode. I'm ready to know what we're going to talk about.
Not a lot, really. There's not a lot that's really happened, so I can't really do much for you on that one. I mean, I do have some news.
I've barely left the house, so
same really. The last 2 years, no one's really gone anywhere or done much of anything. So, yeah, not a lot.
Anyway, what news?
There's a lot of news. There's a lot of TV being made. There's a lot of streaming service working on lots of things because everyone starts consuming stuff. So here's the rumor. I'm not sure. I don't know if you've played this game series. I think you have. But anyway, in the wake of Lord of the Rings and Wheel of Time and Expanse, all kind of big properties being made in the TV series, the new one that is currently rumored to be developed into a TV series by Amazon is Mass Effect.
Yes, not only have I played it, we did an entire episode about it.
Did we?
Yeah.
So much attention I was paying at the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Mass Effect has been around well over 10 years now. But I came to it very late. So I played through Mass Effects 1, 2 and 3 at the start of lockdown.
Okay.
So I was completely blown away by them.
Yeah.
And as you remember from when we recorded an episode about it, I was completely blown away by it. I'm gonna sound a little bit like Alan Moore now, in that it was designed for one particular medium, and translating it is something to me that it's a brilliant universe and a brilliant plot, and they do an amazing job of it. But it's something that to me seems best experienced how it was originally intended, which is as a very, very finely constructed RPG game on the computer.
Yeah.
So and don't get me wrong, I would love to see it come out, and I would love to see them doing, the Citadel and all these amazing locations that are in the games. But it seems to me like any translation into something else outside of it being a computer game is potentially watering it down and distilling it to a point where I'm interested in it, but I would be surprised if I would be surprised if anybody would come away from watching the TV show as impressed by it as when they came away from playing the computer game.
Yeah, it's true. The only kind of, yes, I have similar concerns. And another one is that as good as CGI is, and I don't know if you've seen any of the Wheel of Time episodes.
I haven't. I know it's available to watch, and so I've watched the trailer for it and nothing else.
So when they did Lord of the Rings, you had the orcs, and there were people in makeup to make them look like orcs. From what I understand, from what I've seen, there's a similar, it's not a spoiler, there's a similar non-human kind of enemy foot soldier called Trollocs. They're sort of trolls and orcs combined things. And there's a lot more CGI to them than when you had the orcs. And my concern about Mass Effect is, for some of the races, they'd have to go the more CGI route. For things like the Asari, you could get away with makeup and really good makeup because they've done it for like Mystique on the X-Men films, the blue paint and the kind of prosthetics, that would work well. But for some of the other bigger races, I don't know how they'd do it. And then it's not the kind of as bad as it used to be, like in episode 1, where poor Ewan McGregor's staring at a tennis ball on a stick, and that's a 7-foot alien that he was supposed to believe, and it just didn't work. But equally, Not Rex is this huge, chunky alien with legs that are weird, and he's kind of frog-like and lizard-like and reptilian and really big. And I don't know how they're going to do that. I'm struggling with the idea of it. The only plus I can think about is that it does give Seth Green more work because he gets to play Joker, the pilot, in 3 games. So he gets to be Joker, the pilot, in the TV series.
Yeah, hopefully.
He did the voiceover. And Tricia Helfer gets to come back again as the voice of the AI system, and then play the Inhuman version of the AI system. So there are some pros and cons, But I don't know. It's rumor. No one's confirmed anything, but it's a massive universe for them to play around with. So I don't know. I don't know if they're going to try and do the story of the games or do something separate. It's a wait and see.
That's interesting. So there's 4 Mass Effect games. I've played the first 3, which is like the main storyline with Commander Shepard, etc. Yep. There's a 4th one which I've not played, which is Mass Effect Andromeda.
I have.
But that's, from what I understand, that's set in the same universe, but it's a completely separate story.
It's kind of later.
And that would be an interesting thing to do, to do a TV show. Like, it's an amazing world. And like I say, the Citadel's incredible, and there's so many brilliant locations. It's a robust and well thought out enough world for them to be able to set brilliant stories in the Mass Effect universe, but not be beholden to the story of Shepard and the Geth and all sorts of things like that. So that would be an interesting take on doing Mass Effect, and would kind of make me happier, I think. Not that I care, but
Scott says he's happy. Let's do it, everyone. Yeah. I'm curious. I guess I'm going to wait and see, and then, I'll definitely, if they make it, I'll definitely have a look. But I am anxious. I am kind of a little concerned about it. But as you say, there's a large enough universe that they could tell some interesting stories. Anyway, what other news do you have?
So I don't have much. I had basically one main piece of news, and you just stole it. So
I've got loads. Okay,
that's brilliant.
So
keep going.
I don't know if you watched part 1 and 2 of Lupin, the Netflix show that is the French sort of master spy and thief.
I've seen. So my wife watched it, and I kind of was there while she was watching it, so I'm aware of it, but whether I could describe what was happening episode by episode, absolutely not.
So it was, as far as I understand it, was based upon a French novel, and they sort of adapted it into a TV series. So they basically said that filming has reportedly begun on the next series, which is sort of part 3 of this, featuring the same character. So that's. I know Barry was obsessed with it, absolutely loved it, about this master thief committing crimes and getting away with it and tricking people and conning them. He was so clever. It was really, really good. So I enjoyed that. So yes, season 3 is filming.
Cool. Something interesting about that is lots of people are saying, it's a very French show, but actually the showrunner, I think, is American. And the guy that plays Lupin himself, I think, is dual nationality.
I believe so.
American French. And so it's set in France and it's in French, but actually lots of the creative people behind it aren't themselves French, which is obviously fine. I'm not, I don't have an axe to grind.
No.
But I just find it really interesting.
Yeah. It's just, some shows have done exceptionally well, despite the fact that they're not in English language. And Lupin is one. Money Heist is another one that became an international, huge smash hit, way beyond what they ever expected it to be. And there's plenty of other ones. I mean, isn't Squid Game? That's not in English.
Squid Game is Korean, I think.
Yeah. So they're, again, huge global. I've not watched it. I know a little bit about it. It is on my list to watch. But they're, again, it's just broken all kind of language barriers and become this smash hit. So Into the Night is another one that was brilliant.
Into the Night was incredible. Yeah.
They're filming season 2 of that at the moment. So I think that's mostly in French. But then again, they move between like 4 languages because there's a Belgian guy, there's French, there's a German, there's a Turkish guy.
And obviously they travel around the world as well. That's kind of the point of the show.
Yeah. So, you know, some of these shows just crop up and do really, really well. So yes, they're filming a new series of that. Here's a weird one. I'm not really sure how I feel about this. So Ridley Scott has confirmed there are 2 live-action TV shows in development, right? One is based upon Alien, the universe of the Alien films, and the other one is based upon Blade Runner.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
And is Ridley Scott behind them?
I don't know. From what I understand is he said, so he's not the showrunner on the Blade Runner one. It's been set up by Noah Hawley is attached to the showrunner, and it's hang on. Sorry, Alien's got Noah Hawley as a showrunner, but they're sort of saying that they've written the pilot and they're developing the show Bible, and that both of them are going to between 8 and 10 hours of like a TV series. So I don't really know any more than that, like how it's going to work, what it means, if it's actually going to go into development. I think they're just sort of at the pitching stage, writing the Bible, writing the pilot, and trying to take it forward. But after the last Blade Runner film, I'm not, and they've done some animated things which I haven't watched. Given that I love that world, and you know, it's one of your favorite films ever, and I love the sequel, I'm not really sure I want a TV series set in that world, despite it being there again, a really rich place to tell stories. What about you?
No, yeah, I agree completely. And, you know, there's a time where I would have said, in my opinion, Ridley Scott is the greatest director alive. You know, he had such a brilliant patch of, you know, Alien and Blade Runner and, you know, Gladiator, which I thought was brilliant, and Thelma and Louise and things like that. But if you're a director and you stay in the industry too long, you kind of go the way of George Lucas a little bit. And he just, you know, his recent offerings within, you know, the Alien universe, like Prometheus and Alien Covenant, just, you know, I really like Prometheus, but I'm the first to admit that they're not great. So, you know, interesting universe to set stuff in, but if he's the person behind it, as much as I hate to say it, that's not a good sign.
Yeah.
But then again, he did Raised by Wolves, didn't he?
His production company was on it. He was executive producer, but I wonder how much time he actually, you know, whether it's like a name check and someone else is, you know, it's a tick in the box kind of thing.
But you're right. It's, you know, a brilliant universe. I think one of the problems is the more you flesh out replicants too much, and if you've got, you know, hours and hours to tell these stories, you've got no option other than to fleshing them out. It kind of, the more you flesh them out, kind of the less interesting or special they become, I would guess. It's really interesting, but yeah, not, I feel more positive about Mass Effect than I do about them.
Yeah. We waited however many it was, 25 years until they did a sequel to Blade Runner that nobody wanted. And it turned out it was amazing. And it made the first one, you know, it built on the first one and did something incredible. So that was, you know, a one-off lightning kind of strike thing. But this, I just don't see it.
I mean, we'd both be more positive, right? Like with the new Dune film, where they're doing a spin-off show about the Bene Gesserit.
Yes.
Which Denis Villeneuve is connected to.
Correct.
I think we're probably more positive that Denis Villeneuve's name is attached to it than maybe the idea itself. And if they'd announced that they were going to do a spin-off show of Blade Runner and Denis Villeneuve's name was attached to it rather than Ridley Scott's, I think our conversation might have a different tone to the one that we're having at the moment.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. I just, some of his films have come out and done great. Some of them have just not. Like he was blaming, so his new film is Last Duel that's out at the moment, and it's not done very well. It's been quite poorly received, and he then started lashing out at fans, saying, "Oh, they're awful. And they don't know. They're too busy looking at their phones and millennials and all this kind of stuff." And it was like, yeah, that's not really a good thing to do.
Yeah, I've seen that people do that so much nowadays. That the Charlie's Angels remake. And I can't even remember what her name is, but the director who was
Elizabeth Banks is in it, and she directed it.
Elizabeth Banks basically came out and say, "No, it's all your fault. You don't understand it. You're a bunch of horrible man babies that don't believe
can't
you can have
strong female characters."
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a really bad thing to do, like to blame viewers for your vision failing with viewers.
Yeah,
it's a brilliant film. If only you could understand it, you would agree with me that it was brilliant.
Yeah. It's not good. It's not a good look. It's not a good move. Should have said, hasn't found the audience. Fair enough. Move on. Go on to the next thing.
And so I've just looked him up. Ridley Scott is 83.
Wow.
The guy, both him and us deserve him to take a break from directing.
It's true. It is true, yes. Everyone needs a break, him most of all. Anyway. Yes, that's all the news I had then for today, unless you've got anything else.
No, other than the fact that I've now must have seen Dune about a dozen times.
Really? Wow.
Don't get me wrong, I haven't paid £120 to go and see it at the cinema. But I just one of those things I can just watch again and again and again. I think it's superb.
I'm just so glad now that we know we're getting a part 2. And it's going into production, and it will happen. At least we get a conclusion with the same vision and the same actor. So that's fantastic news. And we hadn't mentioned it since last month. I can't wait. It's a long wait, but it'll be worth it. Given how the first one was, it'll be absolutely worth it. I'm absolutely convinced, 100%.
And there's a YouTube channel that I watch called The Corridor Crew. I don't know if you've ever watched it.
No, I've not heard of that one.
There are a bunch of guys that are visual effects experts. So they talk about movies. They don't review films, but they talk about movies from a visual effects point of view. And they did one about Dune, and they were saying that actually the way that they do the visual effects and the quality of the visual effects is really astonishing. And, they go into things that would have been incredibly difficult to do that I just didn't, obviously I noticed and thought they were, it was really nice to look at, but I'd never appreciated how phenomenally difficult some of the things to do were. Like they're talking about the fluttering of the wings on the ornithopters and how phenomenally difficult it is to do to get that sort of quality of motion blur and things like that. Things that I thought, they look really good, but never, never really appreciated actually the level of thought that went into it. And I think you shared a link with me, or I shared a link with you.
Yeah, about that scene.
The scene
with you.
The scene with the Gom Jabbar. And actually the level of, not just the quality of the filming, but the level of thought that went into everything is astonishing. And that was, that's probably a scene that lasts 2 minutes, in the whole thing.
Yeah. And it was just everything from how Charlotte Rampling was holding the needle. They thought about that to whether or not she actually wears a veil, and originally they were going to take it off, but then he thought it looked more startling and more kind of sharp that you could still see her eyes through it, and he kept it on, and just, things like that. And it all worked the way he cut it so that Paul came across the room more quickly using the voice and all this kind of stuff. It was just brilliant watching him break down a scene and talk about why he made the decisions that he did. I mean, it wasn't quite a director's cut. It was much more than that, but I'd love to just see something like that with him talking about the film. It was incredible. So, yeah, brilliant stuff. But yes, part 2 in 2023, maybe?
Yeah, I think it must be. It can't be 2022, sure.
No, it won't be next year, because they'll start planning it in pre-production next year to film it next year to come out the year after. So, there you go. Right, should we go on to our main feature?
Yep.
Welcome back. For our main feature, we're going to be talking about the continuation of the Marvel Universe. Endgame brought the end to 23 films, I think it was, but thereafter Disney have squeezed the cash cow, and there's lots more movies and, fortunately, some great TV series coming to Disney+. So I'm going to talk about some of the new TV shows only. I'm not going to do the films. And Scott does not know about some of these. We're going to pitch them to him, see what he thinks, and see if he's interested enough to watch any of them or not.
So this will come as no surprise to regular listeners of the show. I'm completely ignorant and uninformed about everything that we're going to be talking about. So, I really love the Marvel Cinematic Universe films, but I remember something that was said by Joss Whedon. When the MCU stuff really began to explode, and Joss Whedon was heavily involved with them. Something that he said was that they was becoming super popular, but he by analogy he was saying if you go back to I don't know, the 60s or the 70s, I guess, Westerns were like crazy popular.
Yep.
And, that particular genre was really dominating the cinema. And now, very, very rarely see Westerns. And he was saying that the superhero film is the moment for superhero films, particularly the MCU.
Yep.
But at some point, it's just going to go the way of the Western. And for me, it was, I haven't kind of made a point of not following the MCU stuff or, deliberately avoiding it. But it felt like such an amazing build up over 10 years to get to Endgame that it's kind of been very difficult for me to kind of resurrect the same enthusiasm that I had up until that point for what's coming after it.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of things I've tried to watch. So I tried to watch WandaVision, which the show didn't particularly. The show, I didn't actually enjoy the show, but I really, really liked the fact that they were trying to do something really different.
Yes.
And the fact that it didn't do anything for me doesn't mean that I'm not happy that they really tried to mess around with, doing something very different to what had been done before. I was more. I've also tried to watch Loki, and compared to WandaVision, which like I say, I didn't really enjoy WandaVision, but I appreciated what they were trying to do with it. Loki really did nothing for me at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things that, I'm kind of interested. I'm curious about what they're doing, but it's going to take a lot to win me back, I think. And actually, I see I'm guessing like you, I have a Disney Plus subscription.
Yep.
So I see things popping up like, I'm going to say it wrong now. Is it Shang-Chi?
Yep.
And I can now watch the Black Widow movie for free.
Yep.
I see things popping up, but I just don't have, at the moment, I don't have the kind of the momentum that I had going up until Endgame.
Recreating that same level of excitement, I think, is going to be difficult. It's not that I won't watch the films. It's that it would be more difficult to get me in the cinema for some of them. There's some exceptions coming up, like there's the new Spider-Man film, and I love Tom Holland. I think he's fantastic. And he's sort of said this is his last one as Spider-Man, and he's so good. So I'll probably see that at the cinema, and maybe the third Guardians film when it comes, because it's, it went in its own way. So there's the odd one that I will go and see, but some of them, like you, I've just waited. So I have watched Shang-Chi, I have watched Black Widow on Disney Plus, and one came too late and the other one was a huge mess. But for me, they're doing on TV what they did at the beginning of the MCU, which was try and make things different kinds of shows. Mm-hmm. And after a while, some of the films became a bit homogenized by bringing in familiar elements, where previously they'd made them radically different films under the superhero umbrella. And it seems to have reverted a bit to that on TV because it's shorter, I guess, they can get away with it. So Falcon and Winter Soldier has been out. That's definitely worth watching if you haven't seen that already.
No, I haven't seen it at all.
That's okay. So here, I'll say the new ones that are coming up. You can say whether you're, interested or not interested, or just not bothered at all. So the first one is actually, it came out November 24th, so yesterday, and this is Hawkeye.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I actually saw that advertised on Disney Plus.
Yeah, it's popped up. So this is following Jeremy Renner again as Clint Barton, where the repercussions of what he was doing in Endgame. It's a minor spoiler if you haven't seen Endgame, but also, where have you been? Yeah. He was running around as an alter ego of his Ronin, and he was killing lots of criminals and so on. And the pitch for this TV show is that someone has been running around using his Ronin alter ego again, and he tracks down this person. It turns out to be a young woman who are coming after Ronin in retaliation for all the things that he did during that time. So the two of them get caught up in crime syndication thing. The other thing to say is it's partially based upon a very successful and a really good comic book run of Hawkeye from Matt Fraction, the writer, and the artist David Aja, who did. So there's, even from the trailer, there's certain elements they brought in. So it's a bit more comedic. It's a bit more lighthearted. It's set around Christmas from what I've seen. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to be like 6 or 8 episodes. But a lot smaller story in terms of, you haven't got the scale and the world ending events, which is, refreshing for a change. Mm-hmm. And that's so that's Hawkeye, and that's available now. What do you think?
So I think there's interesting things that you can do with Hawkeye, because Hawkeye has always felt very much, it's almost like, the Avengers get together and, one of them's like, well, when I get angry, I turn into an enormous green monster and I'm incredibly strong and almost invulnerable. I'm literally a god. I'm a god of thunder.
Yep.
I'm a billionaire that makes amazing suits that I can fly around with.
The smartest men on the planet.
Yeah. So what do? I shoot arrows. Okay. No, you don't understand. I'm really good at shooting arrows. I'm like super good at it. I have incredible speed and accuracy. Okay, we'll find something for you to do. So
it's like Black Widow. What do? I shoot my guns.
Yeah.
Is that it?
It's so I think the Hawkeye, I think Jeremy Renner and the Hawkeye character are good, but I almost think they would do better in a standalone show because the people that he's standing with in the Avengers are different to him. Mm-hmm. So I think I think it's a good idea, and I think I'm curious about it. But it's clearly not going to be an idea where I'm going to go, yes, that absolutely speaks to me. As soon as we finish this recording, I'm going to go and watch it. I think it's a good idea, but it's, with that, it's like everything. It's all going to be in the execution. Okay. I would watch it and I would give it a try.
Right. Yep. Okay.
I was put off a little bit more when you were talking about it, and then you said, "Oh, they're taking it in a more comedic direction." And it was like that doesn't fit. That I've not seen any of it, but that doesn't feel quite right to me.
So, well, I think they're bringing a bit more a light-hearted tone to it. So there's still going to be the peril. If they can walk that line like Joss Whedon does, where there's peril and there's humour, and then it makes the dark bits slightly less depressing, because then that's fine. But we'll see. Okay. The next one is Ms. Marvel. So before Carol Danvers became Captain Marvel in the comics, she was Ms. Marvel. And then they said, we don't want to do that anymore. And they changed her costume and she became Captain Marvel. And then it introduced a new young teenage character as Ms. Marvel. And this is what the TV show is based on. So Kamala Khan is a Pakistani-American teenager living, I think she lives in New York. Mm-hmm. So there's the culture clash of, one, she's a Muslim living in America. Two, she develops powers. I think she's inhuman. I think it's something like that. And three, she's a teenager, so all of that kind of stuff to play with. And it's going to be, how many episodes? I think it's like 6 or 8 episodes there again. Talking about her. Sorry, 6 episodes. There we go. And it's all going to be about her finding her powers, trying to come to terms with all of this stuff. And then that character will tie into the next Ms. Marvel, next Marvel's film, apparently. So there you go. It's about a young superhero.
So you might not, so in the 14 years that we've been recording this podcast, it sounds overly dramatic, but it's true. I've nearly died twice. It's not entirely Steve's fault, but I think he's partly to blame.
Yeah, I'll take that.
But the first time round, I don't know whether you remember doing this, but I had a brush with death, and then you sent me, because I was stuck at home for a while, you sent me a bunch of graphic novels, which was very, very kind of you. Yep. And one of the ones that you sent me was a graphic novel of Miss Marvel. Mm-hmm. And out of the ones that you sent me, which, it was incredibly kind, that's the one that I really remember reading. In detail. I remember how it was drawn. I remember the plot. So there was something about that one that really appealed to me and really, really spoke to me. So actually, already, because of that history of having read it and you having sent me the graphic novel, that's something that I'm sort of instantly interested in. I'll tell you my concern.
Go on.
And it's a cultural concern, which is having a character whose name is so close to Captain Marvel, and what happened with the response to the Captain Marvel film. That's completely no fault of Miss Marvel or the character or the universe or anything like that. But it's a lot of baggage, right, to take on for one of the most poorly thought about, more poorly received, and also poorly talked about from a sort of a public relations point of view, that whoever's playing Miss Marvel and the show itself doesn't deserve that kind of baggage. But my history with it is having read that graphic novel that you sent me and reacting to it super positively. So that's definitely something that I would like to watch.
So we know that it's going to be arriving mid 2022, but that's about all we know. So this next one, I'm going to say it up front, this one really interests me. One, because I know about the character, and two, the main actor. So here we go. So this is Moon Knight. This is a character called Mark Spector, who's a mercenary who is given powers by this thing that might be a moon god, Khonshu. But the problem is the main character lives with multiple personality disorder. The actor playing it is Oscar Isaac.
Wow. Okay.
So that's the first kind of plus.
Yeah.
The second is, if you think Daredevil, you're not too far off, except it's more street and urban level like Daredevil than, flying around with laser beams and stuff. But the problem is, he has a number of personalities. So when he's this character in costume, is he awake? What part of him is actually asleep? When he's walking around in the day, who is he? We're not really sure. And even when you watch the trailer, it kind of jumps between things and you're not really sure what's going on and how it's all going to work. And so I'm very curious. It's going to be 6 episodes. It's going to be in 2022 as well, we think. And I've seen some of the training that Oscar Isaac has been doing. It's like when Keanu Reeves trains for John Wick. It was all kind of, really close combat fighting, no guns. It's all kind of hand to hand. So there's that thing of, it could be an unreliable narrator when you're watching the show, and what you think is happening isn't actually what's happening. It might be him, what he thinks is happening. It's not real, and it could move. So rather than just being a similar thing to Daredevil, I think they're going to play with perception, or at least I hope so, given the character's view of reality.
It sounds really interesting. I think they're in the current climate. I think they're potentially on dangerous ground if they don't treat. If a major plot point of the show is somebody with a particular sort of mental illness that multiple personality disorder is, if they treat that without respect and as a gimmick, I think they're going to get absolutely nailed to the wall for it. But the fact that Oscar Isaac is doing it, forget Star Wars, but if Duke Leto Atreides himself is doing it, then that makes me feel positive and hopeful for it. It sounds really interesting and it sounds fascinating, but just they're walking through a minefield with that kind of a storyline at the moment.
Yeah. It's one to see how they come up with, that's for sure. Right. This next one, I know that as soon as I tell you who the main person is, you'll say, I'm watching that.
Okay, right.
Guaranteed. Okay? The show is called She-Hulk, and the main actress is Tatiana Maslany.
Yeah, move on. No.
So for those who don't know, Jennifer Walters is the cousin of Bruce Banner, who's obviously the Hulk. And in the comics, she has a blood transfusion from him after she's injured in a car crash or something. And then when she wakes up, she can become She-Hulk, but she doesn't treat it in the same way as the Hulk. So when she transforms, she maintains her personality. It doesn't. But then she kind of lives a big chunk of her life as She-Hulk and still goes around being a lawyer as She-Hulk, which is quite interesting. But then she became a lawyer to superheroes and that kind of thing within the Marvel Universe. So it's going to be 10 half-hour episodes. Mark Ruffalo is in it. Tatiana Maslany is in it, and there's a trailer out for it. And it's going to be 2022. So I think most of the filming is done from what I can see. But yeah, I knew as soon as it was Tatiana, you'd be like, yep, I'm in.
Yeah, totally, 100%. Yep. So for those that don't know Tatiana Maslany, she was in a show that's not been on for a while now called Orphan Black. And I can honestly say I think it's the best piece of acting I've ever seen in any show. And it was the sort of role where if somebody gets to exercise, they're acting. You could be a brilliant actor and you could be playing a really boring character, but she's not only a brilliant actor, but she was playing a role that allowed her to show what a brilliant actor she is. That she played multiple characters, and in particular episodes, she played one character pretending to be another character, and you could tell who it was she was and who it was she was pretending to be. And it was good. The most incredible.
She won an Emmy, finally. She finally won an Emmy for her performance, and rightly so.
Deserved. And I think she's absolutely phenomenal. So anything that has her in, I'd love to just to see what she does with the character. But obviously, like I was saying, the Orphan Black is something that stretched her acting ability that maybe She-Hulk doesn't. But I remember She-Hulk. Like probably the last time I read a She-Hulk comic was, I was probably 12 or something like that.
Right.
But my recollection of it is that it's actually she's much less of a tortured character, and it's much lighter hearted than Hulk is.
Absolutely.
So really, really interesting, and it'd be brilliant to see her on screen again, because I don't know what she's done since. She must have done a ton of stuff, surely, but I'm not really aware of what she's done since Orphan Black.
I think she's done some films and stuff and things. Yeah, there's too many to go through. There's too many actually to talk through. This one looks interesting. I'll mention it because it feels more. If they do it well, it'll be like a spy show, and it could feel a little bit Alias type thing. So this is Secret Invasion. So in the I think it was in the Captain Marvel film with the Skrulls. Yeah, the shapeshifters, that can look like humans. So Samuel L. Jackson's coming back as Nick Fury, and Ben Mendelsohn is playing one of the Skrulls, who I think was in Captain Marvel. Anyway, and these are shape changers who are attempting to kind of take over the world by replacing key people on Earth. So you won't. There is that thing of Nick's one of the smartest people in the room whenever he's in the room when it comes to spycraft and knowing how people work and knowing how people think. But suddenly, any character he meets could be a human, or it might not be that person who we think it is. And it's like, how does he know? How can he define these people are trying to take over? So if you go back to The Winter Soldier, when Robert Redford turns out to be a member of Hydra and all this kind of stuff, and it's double agents and things. So there could be an element of that, but in this case, he'll shoot someone and then they'll shapeshift into a Skrull. So it's how I think the show will balance whether it's a success on how well it's written. It has to be really, really well written and smart. Otherwise, it become gimmicky and just a bit one note.
So let me tell you my history with Secret Invasion. So my first exposure to Secret Invasion was a podcast that hasn't existed for a long time.
I already know what you're going to say.
We absolutely loved and was brilliant. And it was a privilege to go to conventions and have them there. But there used to be a podcast called Go for it.
Quiet panelologists at work.
Who used to do a segment of their podcast called Secret Invasion with Jason Statham.
Yep.
And they used to sing that to the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe theme.
That's right.
So that was the first I'd ever heard of Secret Invasion.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my most positive experience of Secret Invasion. So after that, I tried to start reading Secret Invasion, and it was probably my first exposure to something that was really, really spanned so many different sorts of comics within a universe. And to try and follow it, you had to read, Iron Man one issue, and then the Hulk the next issue, and it jumped around all over the place, and it relied so much on the history of these characters and what was going on, that as a relative newbie to the Marvel Universe, I found it incomprehensibly difficult to understand. So I didn't stick with it very long, and it really felt like, if you're a Marvel person and you like Secret Invasion, that's absolutely brilliant. But it kind of felt like I was reading it, and the message that I was being given was, this isn't for you. You're not invited to this particular party. So I didn't stick with it for very long. But I was obviously, through that, I was aware of the Skrulls and what they were. But the first time, sort of revisiting it since then, which, 10 years plus ago that I tried doing it, was Captain Marvel. That was the first time I sort of heard them mentioned again. I knew sort of what they were. But it'll be, they can't possibly do what they did with the, Secret Invasion when it was in the comics, because it's just so, universe spanning what they were doing.
Yeah.
So it will have to be, out of necessity, really watered down. But it sounds interesting, but it sounds a lot less interesting to me than something that's trying to focus on a particular character like She-Hulk or Miss Marvel or even Hawkeye.
Fair enough.
So what do you think to it?
As an espionage show, it could be quite good. They won't be bringing in many of the other main characters, if any. Like, you won't suddenly see Steve Rogers turn up and then get shot, and then it morphs into a Skrull. You're not going to get any of that. And that's the kind of route from the comic, where a bunch of heroes turned up, and the ones that were on Earth had been Skrulls for a period of time, pretending. And that's what they did. They can't really do that with this. It's going to be more a case of, I think, replacing people in key parts of authority to try and take over the Earth. Like, maybe the President of the United States is a fake and it's a Skrull, and and there's that kind of thing. Like, Nick Fury live on TV shoots the president. Everyone goes, "Oh no, what's he doing? He's a maniac!" And it changes into a Skrull, and they go, "Oh, okay." And then that kind of a thing could be quite interesting and shocking. But it's going, as I said, the writing will be critical to this. If it isn't, it'll be dumb, it'll be silly, and it'll just become one note. So I'm curious, because it's Samuel L. Jackson. I do like watching him as Nick Fury, because he has such a doesn't care about anything attitude. But we'll see. Anyway, there's a Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special at Christmas, which is nice, written and directed by James Gunn. I'll watch that.
Okay, I mean, in my last experience of a holiday special was the Star Wars holiday special.
That was better than episode 1, 2, and 3. So I'm on board with that. Caravan of Courage.
Yeah.
Armor Wars, which is James Rhodes investigating the technological fallout of Tony Stark dying and lots of his technology falling into the wrong hands. So War Machine has to go out and try and stop that. That's filming soon. Yeah.
It's almost like Disney got together and had a meeting and said, like, okay, we own cinema now. Like, the whole thing, everything that comes out is just a Marvel movie now. We own cinema. What are we going to do next? And somebody just puts their hands up and goes, TV? And,
True. Yep. There's apparently a Wakanda TV series coming. I don't know anything about it. Apparently that. Yep. Loki season 2, more animated stuff. So this is the last one I mentioned because everyone's denying it, just like they denied a whole bunch of other stuff. But then again, they don't want to spoil it, which is fine. There's a TV show coming called Echo, and this is a deaf superhero. Here's the interesting stuff. In the comics, she came spun out of Daredevil comics. Charlie Cox was recently at a convention in the UK and was asked, now that the things have lapsed with Netflix and stuff, are we going to see you in the Marvel Universe again? Would you like to come back? And he said, yes, I'd love to come back if they invited me and blah, blah, blah. Echo's stories revolve very much around a lot of the same figures, like the Kingpin, like Hell's Kitchen. And people are like, so does that mean Daredevil's going to show up and Kingpin? Does that mean Vincent D'Onofrio's going to come back and Charlie Cox is Daredevil? And there's another rumor that everyone's denied that in the new Spider-Man film, it's in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler, something happens and he ends up in a police station and he needs a lawyer. And the rumor is the lawyer is also Charlie Cox.
Right.
And in his Daredevil persona is Matt Murdock. And it's like, interesting. They all say, no, it's not. No. And I don't want them to, to admit it because it spoils it. But this could be like a backdoor pilot way to get Daredevil back in, and we get Charlie Cox in again as Daredevil back into the Marvel Universe, which I don't know why they didn't do it sooner. If it's true, it was the best TV show. So good, the Netflix show. It's still the best one they've done. So I'm curious. I am curious.
Fingers crossed.
But there's so many more. There's Loki. There's more what ifs coming. You'll love this one. Agatha, House of Harkness, following on from her character from WandaVision.
Yeah.
Get her own TV show.
My problem with the Loki show a little bit was, other than the fact that I didn't particularly like it and I didn't think it was especially good, was that it's almost like, he was planned, and no criticism of Tom Hiddleston at all, because, this is an indication of how successful he was in the role. But it's like he was supposed to be this relatively minor bad guy that showed up a few times. And then, again, there was a meeting somewhere at Marvel where somebody went, we've been looking at audience figures and people think he's really sexy and want to see more of him. It's like, well, we better just give him his own TV show then.
Not untrue, really.
and that feels like a similar sort of thing. This is a character that became more popular than people were expecting. So we'll just give them their own show, which is fine. I'm super happy for all the people employed on the show and the actor that's playing them. That's brilliant, but it doesn't seem like a good way to determine what shows you do.
Do you remember the animated X-Men show from the 90s?
Yes, I loved it.
They're bringing it back.
Wow.
With many of the same cast actors, voice actors returning. That was the last one I was going to mention. So they've said Marvel has announced it. So we don't know when, but they're working on it. And they're saying many of the main cast, Wolverine, Rogue, Beast, Nightcrawler, Mr. Sinister, Jean Grey, Gambit, Storm, Jubilee, many of the same voice actors are coming back for continuation of X-Men 97. And I'm like, that's still got one of the best theme tunes.
Oh, it's funny. I was going to say,
you're going to put that in here.
all you said was the animated X-Men from the 90s.
Yep.
And the tune literally just started playing.
It's coming back. That's thing is though, that's more exciting to me than about half a dozen of these shows that we've talked about. It just is.
Yeah.
It just brilliant.
And the interesting thing is, is Marvel have obviously been way more successful than DC in their live action stuff at the cinema. You know, there's no debate about that.
No.
But if you look at the success of TV animated shows, like the animated Batman is really highly thought of. And there's lots of stuff, interesting stuff that DC have done animated on TV that Marvel don't seem to have competed against since, obviously X-Men from the 1990s and Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, which you can watch on Netflix.
Right. Okay. I might have to watch that again then. Yeah.
I wouldn't.
In a long time. Yeah, the X-Men one was worth it. Worth its weight in gold. That's brilliant. So yes, there's so much stuff coming. There's so much Marvel content. Then there's all of the Star Wars TV shows coming to Disney. There's a lot of content. The mouse is hungry and constantly needs to be fed.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff. So those paper plates and party hats aren't going to sell themselves. So
exactly.
You know. Right, have you seen which of the shows are you looking forward to? There's more that I haven't mentioned because there's too many to go through, but which ones are you looking forward to? Get in touch with us in all the usual ways and let us know. I think we'll squeeze in a Christmas episode, I think, to wrap up this year before the end of the year. But that's it for this episode. So, in the meantime, it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
Good night.
Good night.